said, say a prayer for me. She threw her arms around him, whispered, God will keep us free. They could hear the riders coming. He said, this is my last fight. If they take me back to Texas, they won't take me back alive. There were 7 Spanish angels at the altar of the sun. They were praying for the lovers in the valley of the gun. When the battle stopped and the smoke cleared, there was thunder from the throne. And 7 Spanish angels took another angel home.
She reached down and picked the gun up that lay smoking in his hand. She said, Father, please forgive me. I can't make it without my man. And she knew the gun was empty, and she knew she couldn't win. But her final prayer was answered when the rifles fired again. There were 7 Spanish angels at the altar of the sun. They were praying for the lovers in the valley of the gun. When the battle stopped and the smoke cleared, there was thunder from the throne. And 7 Spanish angels took another angel home.
There were 7 Spanish angels at the altar of the sun. They were praying for the lovers in the valley of the gun. When the battle stopped and the smoke cleared, there was thunder from the throne. 7 Spanish angels took another angel home. All right, y'all, help me now.
There were 7 Spanish angels
At the
altar of the sun.
Oh, I believe
They were praying for the lovers.
Thanks for coming out, everybody. For everybody being here today to pay tribute to our dad. I know that many of you have traveled from far out of town to be here today, and it means a lot to our family and myself and Brad. Seeing so many loving friends and relatives here is a reflection on how Dad lived his life and what kind of a man he was. Our father was loved by everyone, and he was an incredible father, husband, and friend to many. We'd like to call on Larry Davis, Al's brother, to say the eulogy.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to see a lot of faces that I know, and it's too bad the rest of you and us had to meet under these circumstances. My brother Al passed away this past Friday night. Fran was with him when it happened and tried with the help of an AED and the hotel manager where they were staying to save his life. 2 teams of professional EMT personnel arrived and also made every effort to save him, to no avail. He's survived by his partner Fran, sons Shane and Brad, sister Kathy, myself, nieces Jess, Shalane, Kendra, and Sheridan. My girls and I spent a lot of time camping with Al and his boys, and I know that they will all miss him dearly. He also will be missed by many here in Grande Prairie, including cousins Jay and Frida, friends Mike and Clay, and many others. Al loved the times he spent with his extended Grande Prairie family, celebrating birthdays, holiday dinners, quadding, or just spending time drinking beer around a fire. For my part, I was glad that Al had Fran with him in his final hours. We all know that Al spent a lot of time out in camps, installing bridges, away from home, and this could have happened anywhere. I'm sure Fran's presence was a comfort to him in his last hours. Fran and Al would have been together for 10 years this April, and anyone who spent time with them would have known that these two were soulmates. For a lot of years before meeting Fran, Al spent a lot of time out in camps, staying with his friend Clay when in Grande Prairie, and traveling back to BC to visit family, or occasionally working on the coast in construction or near Salmon Arm. Although he always found a way to have fun no matter where he was at, we all hoped that he would find someone someday to help him sink down some roots. Meeting Fran seemed to give him that base. During the last 10 years, Al and Fran purchased a home and made it their own. They almost finished the basement, and I had to add the almost finished, because when I was writing this, Fran pointed out that they didn't quite get it done. They were trying to get it done for our cousins that were coming from Norway this summer, but didn't quite get there. I tried to tell her, don't let the facts ruin a good story. But I had to cave into her honesty. They also created a wonderful yard with beautiful gardens where friends and family were always welcome, and that is a fact. Al was finally content sharing a real home with the love of his life. Prior to meeting Fran, Al's travels had been confined to Western Canada, probably mostly for work. Over the past few years, Al and Fran regularly traveled to Mexico, trading in the cold and the snow up here for sand, sun, and cocktails. I also accompanied both of them to Europe, where we met our family from Norway and Fran's from Switzerland. A couple of years ago, Al and Fran, our cousins Bjorner and Liv, and myself and my wife Debbie all made it back east, where we met our cousins in Newfoundland and Fran's family in PEI. Fran wanted us to know that when she first brought him home to her family in PEI, he was immediately loved by all, which, as we all know, was his superpower. He was impossible not to love, and he gave out his love like hugs and his beer, with his signature take no prisoners approach. If you were due for an Al hug, it was impossible to escape. Times at home with Al were regularly filled with family, friends, laughter, singing and drinking, and occasionally with Al's hilarious dance moves. Fran wanted you all to know that she is thankful to be surrounded by the love and support of all her family and friends. And it's difficult to express what your love and friendship mean to her at this time. She hopes that all of you can join us later at the Crown and Anchor after this, continue on this celebration. Thank you.
Thank you, Uncle Larry.
We're gonna call on a poem by Isabel Pereira. This is Fran's niece.
All right, the poem I'm reading is called Funeral Blues by W.H. Auden. Stop all the clocks. Cut off the telephone. Prevent the dog from barking with the juicy bone. Silence the pianos, and with muffled drum, bring out the coffin, let the mourners come. Let airplanes circle, moaning overhead, scribbling in the sky the message, he is dead. Put crepe bows around the white necks of the public doves. Let the traffic policemen wear black cotton gloves. He was my north, my south, my east and west, my working week and Sunday rest, my noon, my midnight, my talk, my song. I thought that love would last forever. I was wrong. The stars are not wanted now. Put out every one. Pack up the moon and dismantle the sun. Pour away the ocean and sweep up the wood, for nothing now can come to any good.
Thank you, Isabel. I'm just gonna say something that I found that touched me and my brother really, really deep. And then we also prepared a slideshow of memories. This poem's called Memories of Dad. We do not need a special day to bring you to our minds. The days we do not think of you are very hard to find. Each morning when we wake, we know that you are gone, and no one knows the heartache as we try to carry on. Our hearts still ache with sadness, and secret tears still flow. What it meant to lose you, no one will ever know. Our thoughts are always with you, your place no one can fill. In life we loved you dearly, in death we love you still. There will always be a heartache and often a silent tear, but always a precious memory of the days when you were here. If tears could make a staircase and heartaches make a lane, we'd walk the path to heaven and bring you home again. We hold you close within our hearts, and there you will remain, to walk throughout our lives until we meet again. Our family chain is now broken and nothing seems the same, but as God calls us one by one, the chain will link again. Thanks.
Oh legend lives on from the Chippewa on down of the big lake they call Gitchagumi. The lake, it is said, never gives up her dead when the skies of November turn gloomy. With a load of iron ore, 26,000 tons more than the Edmund Fitzgerald weighed empty. That good ship and true was a bone to be chewed when the gales of November came early. The ship was the pride of the American side, coming back from some mill in Wisconsin. As the big freighters go, it was bigger than most, with a crew and good captain well seasoned, concluding some terms with a couple of steel firms when they left fully loaded for Cleveland. Then later that night when the ship's bell rang, could it be the north wind they'd been feeling? The wind in the wires made a tattletale sound, and the wave broke over the railing. And every man knew, as the captain did too, 'twas the witch of November come stealing. The dawn came late and the breakfast had to wait when the gales of November came slashing. When afternoon came, it was freezing rain in the face of a hurricane west wind. When supper time came, the old cook came on deck saying, "Fellas, it's too rough to feed you." At 7 p.m. a main hatchway caved in. He said, "Fellas, it's been good to know ya." The captain wired in, he had water coming in, and the good ship and crew was in peril. And later that night, when his lights went out of sight, came the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Does anyone know where the love of God goes when the waves turn the minutes to hours? The searchers all say they'd have made Whitefish Bay if they'd put 15 more miles behind her. They might have split up or they might have capsized. They may have broke deep and took water. All that remains is the faces and the names of the wives and the sons and the daughters. Lake Huron rolls, Superior sings in the rooms of her ice water mansion. Old Michigan steams like a young man's dreams. The islands and bays are for sportsmen. And farther below, Lake Ontario takes in what Lake Erie can send her. And the iron boats go, as the mariners all know, with the gales of November remembered. In a musty old hall in Detroit, they prayed in the Maritime Sailors Cathedral. The church bell chimed till it rang 29 times for each man on the Edmund Fitzgerald.
Johnny be good. Ride so well. Play the guitar just to ring him a bell. Whoa, whoa. Go, Johnny, go, go. Johnny, go, go.
The legend lives on from the Chippewa on down of the big lake they call Gitchagumi. Superior, they said, never gives up her dead when the gales of November come early.
Well, he was dancing to Johnny Be Good, but unfortunately we couldn't make the sound happen. It was still funny nonetheless. I'm gonna let Brad say a few words.
I also have something I found that hit home. He never looked for praises. He was never one to boast. He just went on quietly working for the ones he loved the most. His dreams were seldom spoken, his wants were very few, and most of the times his worries went unspoken too. He was there, a firm foundation, through all our storms of life, a sturdy hand to hold on to in times of stress and strife. A true friend we could turn to when times were good or bad. One of the greatest blessings, the man that I call Dad. At this time, if anybody would like to get up and say a few words, you are more than welcome.
I'm going to be reading a letter that Al wrote to Fran's father when Fran's mother passed away. My grandmother and my grandfather. Hello, Magnus. I feel that your son and daughters are not only extremely proud to be Swiss and have you for an extraordinarily strong father figure, but that the service for your devoted wife, Hetty, was very well done and complete, to give them the closure that everyone needs when a loved one passes on. I truly hope that this also gives you strength, although you are already one of the strongest individuals I have ever met. It has been my pleasure and good fortune to not only have met you, but hopefully in some small way be a part of your life. Whether you like it or not, I love you, Magnus. And my partner Hector is now going to read a letter that my grandfather, Fran's father, wrote for Al.
I got to know Al from the start as a very generous man. I remember the time Fran and Al came visiting us in Greenvale. He had a rental, a 1-ton truck with dually wheels, so that he wouldn't get stuck on the island. Next day, they went to town and came back with a ride-on lawnmower on the truck. I asked what he was going to do with that. He told me that it was mine now. I did not expect that, but I was not surprised. He would give the shirt of his back. As a matter of fact, I have some of his. Al was a bit like me, Driving in the country, he liked it rough and narrow. I am sorry I did not have more time to spend with him. I would have liked to drive with him up in the mountains of Alberta and BC, and also north, up the Peace River. But he went too early from us. He could have had many more years to live. I honestly miss him, and I love you too, Al. Thank you.
Well, hello again, and flags. In case anyone didn't know it, our family has dual heritage, Newfoundlander and Norwegian. So I brought these funky little Norwegian flags at the request of our cousin Bjorner from Norway. So we didn't spend a bunch of time together. And he actually asked me to find some and bring them up. And I didn't have any in the house, so I had to print them up on the internet. So Scotch tape, paper, and meat skewers. I think Al would have liked them. But this is what Bjorner asked me to read. We are at a lack of words after the shock of hearing about Al's passing. We, as many of you, had lots of plans for the future with Al and Fran. The joy of really getting to know Al and he and Fran when he and Fran came to Norway was heartwarming and instant. The days we spent together on Donna, exploring his roots and meeting his huge Norwegian family was a highlight, especially when we made plans for future meeting points and we shook hands on meeting on Newfoundland. We sealed the deal with Arctic beer. PEI in Newfoundland turned out to be another amazing adventure. The days we spent together on PEI, lobster, fish soup, stew, and turkey should sum it up. And what an experience we had as chefs at Charlottetown University, where us three boys, me, Bjorner, Al, and Larry, were composing new dishes with the help of a certain liqueur that Al had found at the back of a walk-in cooler. Al actually found a whole bunch of beer back there too. In spite of that, we actually still got a certificate from the school. Port Rexton on Newfoundland was the next stop, and Al needed quite a few boxes of beer to complete the Canadian family tree I begged him to make. I still have the original handwritten brown paper document he made and keep it as a treasured memory. The two visits were supposed to be just the beginning of a family gathering, and we looked forward to spending more time together and getting the next generation included as well. With these closing words, I wish to encourage the next generation to tighten family bonds as a salute to Al and his memory. Bjorner and a Norwegian family. Now, I thought I would do something special for our Norwegian family because not all our cousins speak fluent English. So in the spirit of cross-cultural transmission between maritime communities, I'm going to send them back a message in international flag symbols. Can someone tape this for me? I'd like to send it back. Debbie, you got a phone? Yeah. First, I'd like to ask, does anyone know how to read international flag symbols? Anyone here? No? Good. I'll translate after it's done. So what I said there was, how's she going, boys? Sorry about the crappy flags. So I'd also like to say a few more words about Al. And I'm going to start by telling you a little story, a little bit more about me for those who don't know me. I have a history of doing some amateur acting, none of it very good. But something a director in my very first play said to us stuck with me. We were a group of, beginners, just rookies. And she told us we just had to relax. What we were about to do was just like real life. We all have roles we play in our life. We're parents, we're friends, co-workers, spouses. The important thing is to get into your character and play it well. What's a little different about real life is that juggling all these different roles requires having a core of personality traits that stays constant through time and through those roles. And for Al, some of those traits included honesty. If he thought you were an asshole, he'd tell you. He was a generous man who helped many people build things, likely including some people in this room. He was an optimist. Given the large projects he worked on and timelines that he had to complete them in, he had to be. He also had to have enough wisdom to know when something wasn't going to work out and to have the courage to bring it up and tell someone. I'd like to tell you a few stories about Al to help illustrate some of these qualities. The first is from way back when we were kids. Al was a great rider, and he had many bicycles and motorcycles growing up. He was really skilled, and I remember him popping wheelies all the way up and down the block with both motorcycles and his bicycles. He had to have a lot of bikes because he kept on wrecking them. He was always trying to jump things and do tricks and stuff like that. So, and he was always an optimist. He always figured he could pull it off, right? So one time when he was around 9, him and his friends found a skateboard ramp. And they were on their pedal bikes, and they figured with enough speed, they could do it. So he went first. And you guys, everyone knows skateboard ramp. They start off gradual, but they're pretty vertical at the top. I don't know how he thought he could pull it off. Like I said, he was an optimist. I wasn't there when he did the jump, but I did see him later when his friends drug him home. When he went off the ramp, he never took his hands off the handle grips and ended up slamming his face right into the ground. Although he didn't break anything, except the bike again, his face was all scraped up and swelled up like a watermelon. Kathy, you probably remember. He was laid out for a few days on a liquid diet because he couldn't chew. He hurt too much. But when we asked him why he didn't let go of the handlebars and block his face, he said he kept on thinking he could make it. Now that's an optimist. Growing up, our family spent a lot of time fishing and hunting, and Al really loved the outdoors. Building a fire, having a few beers around it, as most of you know. Although he caught lots of fish over the years, his luck hunting was never very good. He did get one deer that I know of, though. We were hunting up by Lillooet, and I'd gotten up there before him with my buddies, and we were all out hunting when he showed up. Him and his buddy went up the hill right behind camp, and there was a deer there, and here he shot it. And I had it hanging in camp when we showed up. There was only one hole in that deer, right in the side of the head. Perfect shot. We all gathered around him, congratulating him on this great shooting, but he had to confess. He said he was lining up for a heart shot and got it right in the side of the head. I still remember, I don't think I could have been that honest. It looked good. Over the years, Al and I tried to get our kids out into the outdoors like we'd been raised. We did trips together, just Al with Shane and Brad, and me with Chelan, Kender, and Sheridan. One of our favorite spots was Shawnigan Lake in the Chicolton Plateau. It's a beautiful place with mountain views, fantastic fishing, great rustic cabins on the beach. It was a great place to let kids run around unsupervised. Me and Al would build fires and drink beer, and the kids could do what they wanted, within reason. In fact, one day me and Al thought we were showing some great wisdom, and we thought, these kids can handle it themselves for a little while. We're going to go fishing by ourselves out on the lake, just for half an hour. What could go wrong? So we left the kids to take care of camp and went out. Kids need to spend some time on their own, right? What could go wrong? And so we trolled across the lake and caught some nice rainbows, turned around at the far end, and our outboard motor started acting up, and then wouldn't start. So then the wind started up, and it was blowing us away from camp. And I said we were optimists, right? So we rode and rode. I think it took us an hour and a half to get back, and as we're getting closer, we can see there was a fire in camp now, a couple of them. There wasn't any fires when we left. Happily, when we got in there, all the kids were safe and sound. They had a fire going, roasting some hot dogs, and everyone still had all their fingers and toes. Although Brad had decided that he wanted to do a sauna, so he had built a fire so big in the sauna house it had the stove glowing red. Over the years, I think Al did his best to help his boys out, but he knew, like the rest of us, they had to give them some space to learn from their own mistakes. Continuing on the fishing theme, Al and I were lucky enough to get out in a salt chuck on a fishing charter with Dad a few times before he passed away. I still remember our first trip out of Bella Coola. We had a great time catching lots of salmon, cod, halibut. Al had never caught a salmon before, and the first 4 he hooked ended up snapping off before he could get them in. The other rod had been landing salmon, so we were wondering what the problem was. So we were all watching him when he hooked his 5th one. We had always used regular little trout spinning rods when we were growing up, and if a fish pulls, the line just goes out. We looked over, and here Al had his hand clamped on that reel. He wasn't letting go of that knob, and it's a single action reel. You got to let go and hold the bottom. So we all yelled at him, let go, palm it. He let go, and that rod screamed. That fish took a run, and Al tried to grab the handle again. He found out real quick why they call them knuckle busters. He quickly figured it out, was able to palm the reel, and landed that thing bloody knuckles and all. Over the years since then, we've got back many times to Bella Coola and out in the ocean there and caught lots of fish, including a 110-pound halibut that Al landed himself. I still know how much fun that first trip was, out with him and Dad. Al was generous with his time, and having a carpenter or two in the family was really helpful for non-carpenters like me. I'm a biologist. What do I know? I know he enjoyed building things for Fran. She told us a story about the deluxe cat house that they have on their porch, with a window view and heating, all for the neighborhood cats, who apparently didn't like going in the house. When I was building my house in Williams Lake with my dad, Al showed up just before we were going to put the trusses on the roof. At that point, Dad was pretty played out, and so we sent him home for a few days of rest. And Al took a one walk through the house and realized there was a bunch of walls leaning at weird angles. So we went to work with braces and got everything squared up before the trusses showed up and put them on top. But boy, was I grateful that he had shown up to give me a hand, because I don't think any doors in that place would have shut properly if he hadn't squared everything up. So circling back to the advice from my director and the importance of playing your part well, I think that Al might have had a few regrets like the rest of us, and hindsight being 20/20 might have done a few things differently. But I think we would all agree that he was fully in his character and played his roles to his best ability. I hope that I can do the same. The curtain came down too early on Al's show, and we'll all miss him.
And for anyone who else would like to come up and tell a story, they're more than welcome to.
Hello, my name's Deb. I'm Larry's wife. I would like to share a story. About 3 years ago, Larry and I, Al and Fran, and two of Larry's cousins, Bjorner and Liv, we went on a holiday together. We went to PEI and we rented a house, the 6 of us, and got to meet Fran's family and Sharon, her dad's 90th birthday. We had so many laughs in that house cooking, and I did basically the cleaning because, Larry's the cook. And we've just planned our trips around the island. The next week we headed off to Newfoundland to meet some relatives of Al and Larry's that they hadn't even met. And again, we all rented a big house and we shared it and took turns cooking and cleaning and planning what we were going to do. Larry and I did a lot of hiking over there, and there was one hiking trail, I forget the name of it now, but Skirwink, yeah. we wanted Al and Fran to come on that hike, and I don't think Al wanted to come. And we're like, Al, we packed beer. So it was a great afternoon. We hiked all the way up and had a beer at the top, and we took lots of pictures, and then we're heading back. Almost done, I think, the last few minutes, and Larry came across a mama moose and her 2 babies. And we all got a little too close, and they started to chase us. Fran and I were in the lead. And we were scared. But it was just a great 2-week holiday, and lots of great memories. I've only known Al maybe 6 years, and I'm telling you, like, he's the type of guy that you just meet and you fall in love with. Yeah. He's so generous. Like, he had this old Ford pickup truck that I don't know, how long did it sit, Fran? Years? Yeah, he gave it to my son Lane, and Lane just cherishes it and has all these plans with it. So Al will be in my heart, Fran, yeah. Kath, and Blair.
So I met Fran and Al 3.5 years ago, and they became my extended family here in town. Fran helped me find the house that I'm living in that's next door to her, and it's my jerk cats for the grace of the cat house. But as much as, you know, my cats pissed him off, he always fed them treats. When I moved here and moved in next door to Fran and Al, from day one, Al bent over backwards to make sure that everything was okay with my house. Anytime I needed anything, if I was out in the yard doing something, he would come over and jump in and, hey, I have a tool for that. Here, let me do that for you. Here, I'll take care of that for you. Half of my house is what it is because of Al. And I'm gonna miss him, Fran, so much. You know how much he meant. And I'm so glad that he hugged me before I left and that he told me he loved me. I love you guys so much. I'm so sorry for your loss.
Hi, I'm Mike Shepard. I started working with Al about 5 years ago. We're all in a bridge crew together. You'll recognize us from the Carhartts that we're wearing. And it was my Uncle Ken that introduced me to Ken 5 years ago. Uncle Ken was telling me about 15 or 20 years ago, he was working on a bridge, and this carpenter guy came to work there. And he was bragging on his hammer, about his beautiful hammer that he just bought, and starting to annoy Uncle Ken a lot. And when this guy went to the porta potty, they went and stapled his hammer to the bridge, the deck of the bridge, ruining it, of course. And that's how they met. And that's how him and Al met, and they were best friends up until Uncle Ken passed away. 2015, I think, and Al went and made it a point to comfort me and tell me that he would be there for me because Uncle Ken asked him to be, and he was. And I don't know, he was a special guy. Anyone who knew him and worked with him, I've never been on a bridge yet that he wasn't kicked off of because of the consultant. And You know, when you get under Al's skin, you really get under it, but he was special. And I remember once last year, he asked me to do something in a ditch, and so I jumped down there and I'm taking my measurements and stuff, and my stupid helmet kept falling off. It must have fell off 5 or 6 times, and I was getting annoyed, and I looked up, and there was Al with the 2x4 flicking my office. Oh. But that was Al, and yes, we're gonna miss him a lot on the bridges and stuff. And yeah, he was always there for the guys he worked for, and yes, we will miss him. There will be a big gap on the next bridge. I mean, a very big gap. Big Al, yes, he was loved, and we do love him. And yeah, sorry for your loss. And when we cry for ourselves. Because Al's in a better place, you know that. But he wouldn't want us dwelling on that. Just know and laugh and just remember him in your hearts. Thank you.
I don't have a story. I just wanted to give a shout out to the boys in the black Carhartts. I didn't know what Carhartts were before I met Al. So now when I see them, I will always think of him.
Sorry, I've never done this before. Hello, some of you already may know me, but those who don't, my name's Alex. I've been best friends with Shane for about 10 years now. Sorry. Over the years, we grew to become family, and couldn't be more thankful for that. I have a beautiful little girl who just turned a year old, and Shane is a great uncle to her. He is a great uncle because he was raised by a great man, Al Davis. Over the years of getting to know Shane, I was fortunate enough to get to know Al as well. Al always knew he was always a kind and welcoming man. He always greeted with a big bear hug, a handshake, 2 fingers in the ribs. Shane, you know what I'm talking about. When you're at his house, you knew you were in good hands. For one, he always made sure you were offered a beer. And that's good hospitality in my books. But you knew you were safe too, even when alcohol was involved. And we all know alcohol and safety don't mix, just ask those who were there for that one New Year's when we played the Russian roulette drinking game. I am very grateful to have been able to know Al, and thanks to him, had the opportunity to get to know some of you here as well. I would also like to thank the Davis family for letting me speak here today. Al, you're a great man, and you'll be deeply missed.
Welcome all. My name is Aubrey. I met Al back in spring of 09. Just working at North Star, working under our friend Jay. I can say that now, he's not my boss. When I first met Al, if you just met him for a few minutes, I'm not gonna lie, you just want to kick him. After he's down. But once you got to meet him and know him, you wouldn't let nobody touch him. I wouldn't let nobody touch him. The man he was a great man, a great dad, great friend, great co-worker. To Al, when you're doing a bridge with Al, you weren't building a bridge, you were building a piano. If that pile was out, boy, Ben got the look. Ben just look at him. I don't know, man. And Al be stood with the 4-foot level, and that'd be the end of it. It's okay, Al, we can fix it with some dunnage and build it out. You guys just don't fucking understand, he would say. To this day, I don't know. I would really like if you guys would bow your head with me. I'd like to say a prayer to Al, please. Lord our Father, I know that you called home one of the best men that I've known. Father, I know you have these times now. He'll be with his dad. Lord, I was with him in the time that you called his dad at home. The man was a big man, but Lord, I tell you now, his heart was so soft and so strong. Lord, I'm asking you now to look over all of us, give us all strength to get through, to continue on, and know that he is looking over us, looking over all of us as he would just as every day of the week, no matter where he was. Lord, look over Fran, Shane, Brad, his brothers and sisters, all of his family, friends. You have now got him in your life, got him with you. I know he's in a better place. Lord, thank you now for this day and this gathering of all of his people and all of his friends. We'll all look to him as he be laid to rest. In the Lord's precious name, amen. Thank you all very much for allowing me a few words. Fran, Brad, Shane, we love you very much. You know where we're at. We will be here. If I had one last question for Al right now, I have no idea how he wore these day in and day out. I really don't. I don't, honestly. Thank you very much, guys.
Good afternoon. So Fran asked me to read something that Rob Forrester sent to her the other day. It goes like this, and I'm sorry, I don't have the English accent, so you'll just have to forgive that. All right. So, Al, the news came by email. I excused myself from a meeting and went outside to read again the news in disbelief, seeking confirmation of a miscommunication. Then Fran's email bursting with heartbreak and distress, confirming the unbelievable was believable. I felt empty, like a limb had been torn from me. Al Davis, a name we will never forget, a giant of a man who would give you the shirt off his back. No reason, as no reason was needed. When I first met Al, I instantly and internally thought, Fran's going to be the employee of the month every month. But as we all know, that image is so far from the true nature of the guy. It's like calling the moon the sun. Not too sure where that went. Yeah, Rob Forrester. He was kind, had empathy. It may not have looked like empathy, but he had it in spades. His generous nature, always had time to chat and ask how your day was, share a few jokes regarding senior management and the engineers who never left their offices. He was the guy that kept the world moving. A set of plans, generally used as toilet paper, a tight crew, and the project would get completed. He didn't need nights out with the boys. He had the love of his life. He had his world in Fran, his boys and his family. Personally, I will never forget the kindness shown to me when I had a glitch in the machine. I was taken in, handed a beer, a place around the table. It was like being part of the family. Nothing was too much trouble. Max gained a second set of parents, and I gained the friends for life. And life is what we are here today to celebrate. Al will be looking down, probably feeling slightly embarrassed about the attention and the fuss. He will never leave your thoughts. The grief will be replaced with good memories, as I would find it hard to believe that anybody has had bad ones, assuming no engineers or senior managers are in the room. Al Davis, one hell of a guy, a true friend.
Hi, I'm Leanne. I'm Fran's friend and Al's, of course. I met Al after Fran and I had a friend of a friend friendship. That's between us. She was a little Toronto-ish when she first came out here. She wore these stupid shoes, I called, because they were like really high heels. And then she met Al, and it just totally became totally normal for her, and he fell madly in love with what she had to offer. It was just totally amazing how you guys were absolutely meant to be. She would come up to my place in Sherwood Park to visit before she started dating Al, and then when they came up together, if I was building a fence, Al was building a fence. If I was chopping wood, Al was chopping wood. If we were repairing something, Al would take care of that, and it was just the expense of beer. I guess that's a theme in his life. It was amazing to see him come out on his relaxing days and actually work the work of what, you know, 4 men would do, and be happy doing it just because that was his heart. And then do a lot of funerals in my 40s now, and I think this is probably the most honest one. Everybody here is telling, you know, the most honest stories. This guy had the best heart, and it's ironic that it was his heart that ended in the end, because everything that he had in his life up until that point made up for any failures that happened at that night. He was an amazing guy, and his heart just said everything that happened in your life together was worth the story. So, okay, thanks.
Thanks everyone for the incredibly kind words. We're very, very happy to have you all here today. If it's one thing I think Pop would have wanted us to say, is that we can dance if we want to. We can leave your friends behind, because your friends don't dance, and if they don't dance, well, you're no friends of mine. We could probably stand up here for hours and talk about him and what a gracious man he was and what an awesome guy. But we reserve some space at the Crown and Anchor where we can share his favorite beverage and tell some more tales. And thank you again to everybody who come out today. Everyone's to take a red rose, sorry.